Welcome back to Hacker Hangouts. We're wrapping up our day 2 right on the vendor floor right next to Hacker Warehouse. And this is awesome. We have Allie back on the, oh goodness. Allie back on the channel, which I am pumped about, who had a rather interesting adventure at DEF CON 30.
So, there was a little mix-up between the goon badges, the real goon badges, which is down here or right there, and some of the goons got paper badges. And mysteriously, and this is not printed by DEF CON, these signs showed up in a variety of places. I got it. Which says, protect your con, report fake goon badges. And I believe, Allie, were you the one who found them and reported them to us?
Yeah, I reported myself. I went up to DEF CON and I was like, y'all gave me I guess I'm not real. I guess I'm fake.
So tell me, this is your second time at DEF CON. How hard was it to create this fake goon badge?
Oh my God, so first of all, I had to hack into every single DEF CON server. I infiltrated a couple of computers and I got all the graphics. And then I specifically decided I was gonna email the organizing team, be like, oh yeah, here's your designs, pretending to be the graphic designer who does all the designs, and that's how I figured it out.
So I have to say, as a purveyor of creating fake DEF CON badges myself, this is a really good job. All right, so protect your con, report fake goons. No, so of course, we're joking. Someone decided to print these out and place them around the conference. These are real goon badges. These are real
This
goon
is a
badges.
real badge.
And
I've had it verified. Today I was going to the social engineering village, and I have a goon badge. I'm gonna, oh no, there's a line.
Go in to get some coverage, right?
Going in to learn, to figure out what I can cover, what I can't cover from the social engineering village. And so one of them, obviously being the social engineering village, you gotta be smart about who's walking in and who has a goon badge. So I'm like walking in and they're like, wait, find us a goon. And I'm like, what, why? And he's like, I've never seen this badge before. I find a goon and the goon's like, no, that's a real badge, that's a real badge.
So a human stopped you.
No, another goon. Like
another goon.
A door human, like the social engineering.
Chaos among the goons.
Yeah, a social engineering moderator stopped me. So a social engineering goon, but not like an official con goon.
Okay, gotcha.
So one of the funny things is I feel like we've gone from highly sophisticated forgeries that happen around DEF CON.
Does it actually happen?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then, did you hear the story about this one? So there was one lunatic at DEF CON who actually, during DEF CON 27, went and found a urinal cake to duplicate the badge at DEF CON.
Yeah, I heard that he might be here with us right now.
It is.
I believe Silk said we paired. What was it?
You paired with hundreds or thousands of attendees.
No, hundreds of badges and thousands of noses.
Hundreds of badges and thousands of noses.
How does one use a urinal cake to make a badge?
So that year, and I'm sad I don't have one with me, but it was the badge was a puck of quartz that was utilized. I think they utilized cochlear implants to communicate between badges. Well, that puck looked suspiciously like a urinal cake. So my friend Gulo and I said, well, it's Vegas. I'm pretty sure we can find a urinal cake somewhere. And we actually, not only did we have to find them, we had to shave them down to the correct size. And then I used a coffee cup to create the back of the circuit board. And then we used hot glue to place fake components. And it got by all of the goons. We even paired with Dark Tangent. And, he was actually the only person who realized what it was before he smelled it.
Were people smelling it and they're like, what is that?
Well,
this was the funniest thing. Is with
no one smelled it.
No, you definitely smelled it. But the funniest thing we found was all of the men instantly knew what the smell was, and it took me a minute to realize why none of the women did. Well, it's because there's no urinals, obviously, in women's bathrooms. But all the guys knew exactly what the smell was right away. And this happened right near the darknet table. So all of the men knew what it was. All the women just got I was going to say irrationally angry, but it's actually perfectly rationally, because the urinal cakes are not obviously meant to be in the air. And what made it worse was this idiot was shaving the thing down into a thin little puck. And
So did it
just like,
smell like pee everywhere?
No.
No.
Actually, urinal cakes smell like mothballs because they're made from the same substance. So that's what all the women were walking around going, what the hell smells like mothballs? And all the men were going, what the hell smells like a truck stop bathroom? So
Urinal cakes don't make sense to me.
no. Anyway, so so to answer your earlier question.
Something I am unfamiliar with, urinal cakes.
So to answer your early question, yes, people do forge badges regularly at DEF CON. There's a contest for it specifically. I don't know if it's an officially sanctioned contest, but it is one of the oldest contests at DEF CON. And so, if you guys are looking for something to do and you're not sure whether you can do it, you can do it. A low-tech hacking and apparently paper badges. But these are real.
I feel like that's like a good blend of like forgery, social engineering, and just like everything in badge replication. I feel like that's like a great blend.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming by to show us your goon badge. Yes, these are real, and you don't need to report them.
Don't bully me. I promise I'm nice. But you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/endingwithally, on Twitter at endingwithally, and if you want to find me easier online, you can find me at stupidly.online.
It's awesome. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Allie.
much. Thanks for handing by. All right. So I'm laughing. We have Kyra asking, where is the rest of the crew? Gulo is was spotted near Darknet, and I believe Gator as well. It was a whirlwind today.
Oh, today was crazy. Yeah. Wow. So yesterday we were in the Flamingo primarily, and we went to all of the villages over there, got spots, got them to talk to us, learned a heck of a lot about what everyone is doing, which is actually the most fascinating thing, right? We think of like the biohacking village as, oh, maybe they're going to have a few labs here, or maybe they're going to talk about like CRISPR, or, because that's kind of biohacking. But no, they have a ton of labs over there. They have they have CTFs and challenges that healthcare providers can interact with and actually play in without any, background in cybersecurity to kind of get them that crossover information, right? And that's stuff like that is fascinating because it's so hard to figure out everything going on at the con, and having that whirlwind of just walking through the hallways past all the lines and being able to talk to all of the organizers was really cool. And we're going to have a flurry. We already have a flurry of videos going up on Alex's channel. We'll probably have some up on the Hacker Hangouts channel as well. I believe the CTF. So today we went around and we interacted with a bunch of the contests. And we have a bunch of fun content to upload in that regard. We got some LARPing. We got Scav Hunt's soda machine, the Shell on Demand appliance.
There was, oh goodness. I think my favorite ones though were so I've said this multiple times in videos, which is hacking is not interesting. And I mean that from a video perspective. It's really hard to make a SQL injection look interesting. Like, it's like, oh yeah, apostrophe and 1 = 1, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it's not that interesting. The things which are interesting is all of a sudden is you launch that payload and the big model of the oil rig goes up in smoke.
So he's talking about there's a bunch of ICS challenges this year, and they're physical hacking challenges in the sense that you connect to a computer, and when you eventually pop that shell or have that effect, the oil rig that you're trying to hack goes up in smoke, or the city that is connected to a bunch of power lines, all of a sudden, and you'll see this, it's really cool, there's this giant city display, the power goes out and the whole city just goes dark. And it's using real equipment that is on the power lines, and these contest players are actively hacking it. So look forward to those videos. Those videos will be up on Alex's channel later.
Yeah, good question from Jordan. Let me go ahead and push this live. It's hard having like multiple computers here. Here we go. Is DEF CON Noob, is winning a black badge still a thing? Yes, it is. Actually, so this is sort of cool. Black badges grant you access to DEF CON for life. They have been around for a very long time, but it started out where there would be certain contests which were earmarked to get a black badge. Usually it was always the DEF CON capture the flag, it was scavenger hunt, and there's a few other ones. However, around DEF CON 20, they stopped assigning black badges to certain contests, and now it's a mystery. The DEF CON Capture the Flag is the only one guaranteed to get a black badge, and they get like 8 of them, even though their teams might be much larger. And then the other ones get awarded like Sunday morning. And so the people who have been dedicating their entire conference to a specific challenge don't necessarily know that it's a black badge challenge.
Right, and so the hardest part about this is, yes, you can totally, as in fact, one of the goons here working the vendor area has a great story about his first DEF CON, and we're going to have him on later to chat with him, hopefully, so he can tell this story better. He came to his first DEF CON, sat down at a random event and said, hey, I'm going to try this out. Found 2 random people there doing the same thing and ended up winning that event, and then found out it was a black badge event and left on his first DEF CON with a black badge. And then later he met his wife on the way home, or his future wife. So like, what a whirlwind, you know, win a black badge, win entrance for life, and then meet your wife on the way home. It's crazy. But yeah, as a DEF CON noob, if you're a first year, if you're a second year, one of the reasons why they randomized which contests were going to get a black badge was because they didn't want to create this, at least this is my understanding, they didn't want to create this highly competitive situation where, for example, DEF CON Darknet was always a learning CTF, right? And we didn't want people to be highly competitive. We wanted them to work together. So every year when they announced, if they announced that we were a black badge, all of a sudden everyone would be quiet and no one would talk to each other. No one would teach each other. And so one of the lessons DEF CON learned is if they keep it quiet until just before closing, then we can really, you know, create a community that is there to help each other.
Yeah. The other question was, oh yeah, Kyra, 100% going next year. Awesome to know. Something that kept coming up was we did a video on what's the smartest way to approach DEF CON? Like, what's your top tips? And the thing which you can really, all of them come down to community, which I guess wasn't necessarily surprising. But what was interesting this year is it was a whirlwind. We went from village after village after village after village. We went to Flamingo, and there's tons of villages. And I think DEF CON hit like a wonky middle year where probably earlier there were less people.
Right.
And then we hit sort of that like the adolescent phase where we weren't really, it was hard to find your tribe. And with all these different villages showing up, it's a lot easier to find the group of people which you're going to probably groove with a little bit more.
Well, but the thing is that, and we're learning this as we're trying this video experiment. We're doing this thing that is very atypical of DEF CON, where you bring cameras everywhere, and it's an experiment because some people are comfortable with it, some people are not. But here's the thing: it's easier and harder to find your tribe or your people here at DEF CON in many ways, because if you're interested in hardware hacking, there's a whole village for you. But you show up at Hardware Hacking Village, and there's already 100 people, 200 people there. It's terrifying to sit down and try and integrate with whoever's already there, whoever's already established. And one of the things we want to explore with the videos that we're putting up is being able to show some of those, you know, the organizers that have been there for 5, 10 years, get a little bit of their story, but also show a little bit of the buried information, stuff that unless you came to DEF CON and spent time in the villages, you wouldn't be able to know, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of digging some of that information out and making it available to people. So if you're a first timer or a second timer coming, you know, okay, I missed that this year, or I've never gone, but that looks really interesting and I want to try that. And that's what a lot of the people who were giving us tips throughout their top tips was find an event or find a thing that seems interesting, and don't worry about missing the rest, quote unquote, of the con. Just do that thing, because DEF CON is going to be here the next year, and you'll be able to interact with that too.
Mm-hmm. I think the contests were always the way I found to meet the most people.
Yeah.
Because I think of like Darknet. Getting involved with Darknet was the contest where I met a ton of people, mainly because they built this really cool function. You'd learn how to solder, you'd build your badge, and then the way you would score points was syncing up with other people's badges. And it's a little weird to be like, hey, let me just sync up with your badge without like sharing a name, or like having a quick conversation.
Well, I think the whole goals. I forget what all three of them were, but I think it was learn something you don't know, meet someone new, or so it was like do something new, meet someone new, and I forget the third tenet of Darknet. I'm a terrible operative right now, but yeah. So that's we're seeing a lot of contests now that are adopting that type of mentality, and it's really refreshing. Like you go into the aerospace village and you see models of Lego airplanes and Lego helicopters, and it's not designed to what is the term I like to use? It's not designed to stump the chump. It's designed to actually give you an introduction, whether or not you already know how to program.
Hold you a little closer.
Yeah, whether or not you already know how to program, or if you're just, my friend came this year, she's a school teacher, and she put together an electronic badge, and she was like, I learned something really cool, and I'm going to take that back to my school, and I'm going to work with the tech department and figure out how to integrate this into my high school. Yeah,
it's amazing because like the original CTF feels like it's very not approachable. Like I feel like when you look at because that is where we're heading right next. By the way, speaking of which, when do we need to get there?
We need to get there at 5:45, right?
5:45. So we have a little bit more time.
We have a little bit more time, and so that's the thing that they, the CTF organizers, and we have a video up on that. We have a video with a long-time veteran of DEF CON CTF, and they came about the same thing, which is the CTF is kind of inaccessible in ways, where it's the Olympics of CTF because it's DEF CON, of course, but I want to be able to show, or we want to be able to show what's going on during the CTF. And as Alex said, hacking in many ways isn't interesting, right? We were joking about this earlier, where you click a button and then you go to sleep while something brute forces, or
or something fuzzes, or any of these processes.
And so what they're doing this year is they're live streaming some small challenges and putting the teams on the spot to actually hack against each other, and they're sharing the screen, and you can watch all of this with commentators explaining what the competitors are doing as you go, and you can get there by going to livectf.com. They'll be wrapping up for today shortly, but I think there's a small round tomorrow morning.
When I remember the CTF walking into it, like in previous cons, it's a big dark room.
Yeah.
No one's talking. If I even wanted to walk up to and ask them, like, hey, what are you doing? They wouldn't respond because they were used to social engineering occurring on other teams. Or one team would hire go-go dancers or whatever to go and interfere with the other team to distract them. It was a very unapproachable thing where so many of the other contests have grown, and there's now, CTF, which is SEA. That's the one which is working on maritime hacking.
Yeah.
There's the car hacking CTF. There's the red team CTF. There's the ICS CTF. There's more CTFs which have grown, and all of which are approachable. There wasn't a single one we interviewed which wasn't created where some beginner could come and learn.
Right. I mean, even some of those ICS ones were approachable by beginners, and that's really cool because, there is talk amongst some DEF CON veterans that we were talking about where they're a little sad that the early days of DEF CON are going away, but really it's not that DEF CON's going away, it's just evolving, it's changing, it's being more welcoming to new people, being more inclusive to more people, with the Girls Hack Village and the Blacks in Cyber Village, which are great, and some of the other videographers are putting out great coverage of those things as well, and we're hoping to get them on to chat about that. Now, and to your point, the CTF room used to be dark and there was loud techno playing all the time. And today we walked in and all the lights are on and there's a streaming station and there's live commentators. And it's kind of interesting in the fact that we're kind of bringing the CTF into the light to show people what we're doing, and we're not hiding in the shadows anymore.
And I think a lot of the graphics representing the scoreboards became a lot more interesting. Before, most of the scoreboards are most of them are running off of CTFD, which have very similar graphics, and it was really refreshing to see some of Capture Flags not using that, where they were able to make the graphics a little bit. A good example of this was both the obviously the DEF CON CTF, but also Hack Fortress. I love the way they display scores.
Oh, yeah. I mean, We have a Hack Fortress video coming up pretty soon. I think we just got the footage. We're waiting for the editor, and it should be out soon. That's one of your favorite competitions, right?
Yeah, I think it's between, that was the one I have competed in the most, like easily the most. I love the team that runs it. The other one I love is Scav Hunt, and it's funny, I never give it much of a thought, like when I was first coming to con, but over the years, I've started gaining more and more respect for that team, for the amount of thought that goes into their list items. Because most of them, they think through in this idea of like, this should be fun and this should be interesting. This should bring other people going, what in the world are those people doing? But not be like easy. Like go get an Ethernet cable. It's like, it's some of the things that you're gonna have to, give some creative thought to, like the
right.
CISS, ISS, IPPI.
And I mean, but also some of them are super approachable, and some of them are easy, and they're just like designed to get you out talking to people who run the conference. For example,
oh gosh,
Silk's on the list this year, which I think it's number 40 on the CTF list, and it says, "Go tell Silk why rayon is great." And rayon is a synthetic fabric.
Oh, I know exactly what rayon is.
Yeah.
I never knew what it was before, but now I have been told it far too many times.
People just running up to him and assaulting him with, "Rayon is the greatest fabric in the world, Silk. Did you not know this? Silk is too expensive. Ditch Silk."
Oh my gosh. Cameron, this easily, thank you. This means a lot to hear something like that we've made DEF CON more approachable for people. I think it really is. The more we talk about it, the more I experience DEF CON, the more I just absolutely love being around DEF CON. Now, again, it's 34,000, however many thousands of people here. In this big of a crowd, you get all sorts. You really do, and we've experienced some of them at con this year. But for the most part, though, it's about finding your tribe, but you find all skill levels.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's funny to say all skill levels, because at some point we were all noobs, right? And
some of us still are.
Well, yeah. But it doesn't matter. Like, you think of somebody who's been coming to DEF CON for 20 years, and you're like, that guy's a veteran. But for me, we talk about this on stream all the time. For me, I might be a veteran in emulating things, but I don't know how to do pen testing. And you're going to find people like that here, where they have we call it a vertical. They have a deep vertical where they know knowledge about a lot of things. We ran into Deviant Olem, and we were saying, hey, wouldn't it be great to be able to sit down and do like a lock picking competition? And he said, well, I don't have time to do it right now, so maybe we'll schedule something for next year. But hey, go to the people in the lock picking village and talk to Tool, because those are the guys that really, or girls, that really have spent a ton of time, and there's content creators over there, and lift them up. And he was even saying to us, what we're doing now with filming and trying to be careful with the cameras and make sure that we don't get people on camera that don't want to be on camera, but trying to bring those things into the light and explain to people that this isn't the illegal hackers descend upon Vegas. Even he was saying that's super important, and we want to do that. We want to make DEF CON more approachable. So thank you for that comment. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, Jordan, you as well. Thank you for dropping the comments. Always appreciate these. I think the other thing is the more. Oh gosh. So this year, unlike any other year, I feel it so much more how freaking big the conference is.
We're just gonna keep saying that.
I know that we have said this so many times, but legitimately, before the conference, we started planning out content that we wanted to do. We had 86 videos. There's no way we can do 86 videos, but we are going to try. But here's the thing is, we have not even looked at that list.
Not at all. Well, I think it was useful to go through and understand and put together ideas so
absolutely.
that when we see the aerospace village, we go, I know what we're doing there, right? And then you walk in and you're like, there's brand new things here. There's a whole cockpit, which we're going to get tomorrow morning on camera and talk to the organizers of that. There's a whole cockpit that is just out there and ready to open. There's the car hacking village. You walk in, there's always a Tesla in there now, but now there's a Honda and there's go-karts. And you're like, well, I had an idea, but the go-kart looks really cool, so we're going to do that instead.
In talking about approachable, though, so most of the time, actually pretty much all the time, every time, right before we do a video, we announce like, hey, we're going to shoot. Everyone okay being in it? And like, were you cool being in the background? Things like that. In this one, we did this in the car hacking village, and there was like 6 guys like, yeah, come on. Are you okay if I talk to you about? Yeah. So now when we walked up to them, I was expecting them to be like, oh yeah, we've been hacking cars, we've been doing this for so many years. The one guy's like, I sat down in this car and I have no idea what I'm doing. Like,
but then he proceeded to explain everything that everyone else in the car was doing, right? Talk about a hell of a learning experience.
Yeah, it was kind of fun too, talking through the problem with him. I think I geeked out a little bit because as they were talking about issues, I'm like, oh, I noticed there's a firmware update. Have you actually considered trying to like, create a collision, create your own firmware to bypass the checksum? And I think all of them started looking at each other like, we could. It's like that scene out of the movie Hook, and they're like,
oh, yeah.
You're like, Smee looks at Hook and goes, what if you'd make the kids love you? And then Hook looks at Smee and goes, Smee, what a great idea I've just had. Maybe I could get the kids to love me. And it's been a blast.
No, and it's going to continue to be a blast. It's not like the conference is over yet. We've been here since Wednesday, and we've been working since Wednesday. So the last comment that just went up was thank you to all the goons doing the conference. Yes, of course. Like, oh my gosh, the people who, the sock goons who are out there running around making sure people have their masks up. They have, I would say, the hardest job in the conference right now because it's still, I call it social sandpaper, but it's something we need to do here to protect everybody. And they're doing a really good job. And for the most part, the con goers are, they're listening. They're doing everything right. But those folks, I have a friend who's a sock goon who was on duty until 4 a.m. last night. Just walking through the parties, making sure I was watching her help someone get back to their room last night too, which like, they do more than just police the area. They actually help people, right? And they keep them safe, and they make sure that they're getting home if they're stuck on the dance floor or something like that. And I immense respect for the people who have been gooning for 20 years sometimes.
Yeah, I know. It was funny because I think recently there is the retired goon badge I've been seeing them have. And I think it's at 10 years of gooning. At one point, you get this retired goon badge, which I think sort of works just like a black badge. You get free entry for life and things like that. And it's crazy how old DEF CON is. 30 years. Like,
I think it's 30 years young.
30 years.
I don't think of it as
young.
Old.
I do think, you think after 30 years, they would have everything together, but it feels like every year it expands and it's getting bigger and more stuff, and it adds a whole nother slew of problems.
Well, we were talking about that, and there are definitely some frustrations. The things that we're doing, it feels unorganized, but then you start to realize just how big the conference is, and B, almost every village, every contest is run by a volunteer organization. And those are going to have rapid turnover. So you're starting to appreciate how hard it is to herd those cats in some sense. But how cool it is that every year it's just a massive call for everything. And then you have whatever nonprofit wants to throw their time and effort at it. And then you show up and it just happens. And I'm not going to say it just happens. Like, the actual DEF CON staff has to make sure we have a place to come and, herd all the cats and make sure all the villages are in the place and design it out and everything.
I got another one for you, which is even if you have everything planned out, everyone knows what's happening, you still have curveballs thrown. Because, look what the knock did to us. So we were struggling to get videos uploaded because they were taking so long. And talked to the knock, and they allow us at our address to be able to get way more bandwidth, which, by the way, is kind of just like a warm fuzzy blanket that I just uploaded 20 gigs in about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so huge shout out to the goons. It's really fun and interesting to watch how, quote unquote, the sausage gets made. And the chaos of it is both frustrating but also really invigorating and fun. Because, it's kind of like being at the land of misfit toys, where you're like, can I do this? Well, let me think about it. Ethically, should I do this? And you go through those checks to make sure, we're keeping people who don't want to be on camera off camera. And then you just walk up and you ask for consent to be on camera. and you go. And for us, we're threading the needle here. This is hard. It's hard to make sure we're not doing the wrong thing, because there are a lot of veterans who are uncomfortable with cameras starting to show up at DEF CON. But the fact that this is just a new evolution in the DEF CON story.
On the other side of things, there's also this weird kind of problem that has formed. Cybersecurity hacking is mainstream. It's known, it's mainstream, it's known to be a career. I can walk up to someone and say, what do you do for a living? I'm a professional hacker. Now, hacker, we've discussed, is a very large term, but for the sake of argument.
So 10 years ago, you would never hear somebody, or it would be very rare to hear somebody say, I'm a professional vulnerability researcher. Right? You just wouldn't hear it. People would be very close to the chest.
And here's the part which is so funny to me. Like, recently, it just hit me. So, what was it? Darknet Diaries came up to us just now, and he has sunglasses on, he has a mask, because his face isn't associated with the channel. Like, he's done interviews, and they don't show the face. And what's so funny to me is there are multiple people at the conference right now, like John Hammond, Lockpicking Lawyer, Darknet Diaries, these really big name people who are at the conference. It's advertised that they're at the conference, but they have to hide their face, or most people don't know who they are. Heck, even on this channel, one of the guys who watched this channel, he's never showed his face. And recently, and when we met him, it took us a minute. Like, again, he was he was wearing items that would give him away for anyone who knew him. But at the same time, it was like all this cycles back to, we have a weird problem. It started with no one wants to be seen. Now there's certain famous people who are here now who don't want to be seen.
And so this is really interesting, though, right? Because now, if you look at the panels that are being put on, there's a right to repair panel that went up earlier. And YouTube personalities are being invited to DEF CON to be on these panels. Louis Rossman was here.
Yeah.
And man, I'd love to pick his brain. We were talking about right to repair not too long ago.
Joe Grand is here too.
Joe Grand
has been here for a very long time, but recently jumped into YouTube, and I think he's he's doing awesome videos. He's growing like crazy.
I think the privacy thing is tough, and we're doing our best to respect it and to make sure that people get a chance to, hide their faces and everything. And that's, like I said, I think it's just going to be another evolution of DEF CON. And it's going to, I'll say, probably for some of the veterans, it's going to get harder to keep your face private. And that's, I think that's a legit concern, right? Yeah. I think that's a legit concern if that's what you're trying to do here at the con.
Yeah, I mean, let's switch topics. Let's go back to, what was your favorite thing you saw today? Because we did see quite a bit.
My absolute favorite thing was the Blue Village organizer LARPing and throwing tinfoil lightning bolts at the red team CTF organizers. Just run up. We got this on video. Run up, and she goes, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. And that's relatively normal at DEF CON, but that one was my favorite so far.
I think my favorite was it's something I've said frequently, which is I want to go and find the fascinating things happening around con that are that no one will ever know about. Like, in one of the ones is going to the XOR vending machine, and we just we were walking by, and I'm like, grab the camera, we need to go right now. And there's a guy with chopsticks all tied together, shoving it up through a vending machine, trying to hit one out.
Yeah. That one was really fun.
That was a great one. The scav hunt, oh my goodness, we just walked in there, and all of a sudden it was, I'm forgetting his name, Jason Street. Jason Street and Dual D. There's Jason Street sitting there with this giant pink cowboy hat on doing this, and Dual D is just
But he's dancing around him.
He's dancing around him.
Yeah.
Shirtless. And it was just so funny to go in and see some of these things while all the sophisticated hacking is going on.
Yeah, right next door is the CTF, right? And they're in there popping shells and playing against each other, and it's not like that's it's not like that's anything new. That's the thing that but we said it earlier this morning, if every professional conference was like this, I think a lot more creativity would get done year over year. We always say when we leave the conference, we're exhausted but invigorated, and we want to go back to work because it's just like, oh, right. That's the industry that I'm in, and that's the people that I work with, and these people are vibrant and bright and fun to be around.
So Jordan, you're asking, I would love to see a reverse engineering malware village next year. So one, there's not, but there is a lot of places you could do that. Here's the kicker though. So we were in the Blackson Cyber Village, and Lorenzo White, I totally have the hardest time pronouncing L's and R's together.
Right.
But Lorenzo White, he is now managing that village, and it kind of just like, congratulations, you're running a village. And then so many of the other villages are not like, okay, we're going to have 20 years of planning. It's, I want to do this. I'm going to go do it.
Right.
And what's interesting is it's not expert. It's not like I am a Louis Rossman who wants to come and talk about right to repair. It's I am just beginning, but this is something I want to learn, and I'm going to go see if I can create this.
Yeah, and I think what Silk is getting at is if you want to see that happen, I mean, it's difficult to say maybe you should reach out to people and start to create it, but that's kind of how DEF CON gets done, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a group of people who go, this is missing from DEF CON, I want to do this, right? And so, trying to socialize these ideas and say, hey, I want to see a reverse engineering village, and what tools are available, and show me these things. Like, heck, like that's something Vector 35 might like to do with Binary Ninja, set up a reverse engineering village and make it more approachable and more available. I can't imagine, for example, having a village where it's like, we're going to talk about IDA. That used to be a thing where you would have somebody at a booth that would talk about IDA, probably at Black Hat because that's the more money-centric place, but at DEF CON, it would be bizarre to have like an IDA booth where it's like, let me teach you how to use some features of IDA, because it's such I'm definitely biased. IDA is an incredibly unapproachable piece of software.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And things like Ghidra and Binary Ninja come along, and they're filling the holes in the gaps in that realm, and they're making it more approachable. Binary Ninja has a really, really active Slack channel where you can go on and you can learn how to use those. So while I think a reverse engineering village, I don't know how I would execute that, but those folks might. And reaching out and telling them, have you thought about doing this, might be a way of making it happen. But even so, like, know that these communities exist, and you should check out the Binary Ninja Slack and seek out help from other newbies.
I think the thing that was sort of weird to me is how approachable some of these personalities are. And I use the example of like Binary Ninja. It's like, okay, that must be a big corporation or something like that. Or even like, again, like kind of weird ones like, Deviant Olum and stuff like that, where, I mean, like, again, these are big names. You go, okay, Snubs over in Hack 5. Like,
right.
It's so interesting that you can reach out to these people on Twitter and whatnot, and immediately they reach back. Like, right. John Hammond was another one. Like, I reached out to him, and immediately John reached back out. It was just so cool that these
personalities.
You think, I was gonna say, you think that these, like I'm the little child reaching up to the big adult, and like, again, then it's like, oh wait, this is another human being who's actually like genuinely interested in talking. It was just really cool with that.
It was fun. Like Allie, we had on this morning, and she comes on and like, I talk about imposter syndrome, and we're like, funny you say that because we do that too, and it becomes an ongoing discussion with almost every single one of these people that people look up to in terms of like, oh, you're the master, you're the person who's going to jump out of the bushes and say, you're wrong about that. But then you walk up to them and they're like, no, let me teach you, right? Or you're on the right track, or what you're doing is really important. And, people are trying. And like, it's such a welcoming community. My friend Alex, the school teacher, she even said, this is one of the most inclusive groups of people that she's ever met, period.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was so wonderful to hear. They were super just floored by how, just how inclusive the group here at DEF CON is.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, for instance, obviously I speak very highly of DEF CON, and And I have people saying like, hey, I cannot wait to make it out there. And it would kind of suck if they just came out there like, yeah, this is a horribly unapproachable group. Like, I am so happy when I hear stories like that. Another question, which was, yes, have you come across anyone wearing special attire wild outfits? Yes, many yeses.
Let me look out into the crowd right now. Hold on. Let's see. I got top hats. I got sparkly top hats. I got LED top hats.
There are helmets. I see fuzzy ears over there.
Oh, there's at least one furry in the background. There's somebody with a rainbow DEF CON cape.
Yep, there is. It's kind of awesome.
Unfortunately, we can't turn the camera around. That would not be kosher here. But yeah, I mean, you see people with red hair, or bright pink hair, dyed blue hair. I mean, let's see how many. There's at least one 1 foot mohawk here in the background.
Yes, I will say the mohawks are quite often there. Is there still a free mohawk station somewhere? That used to be a thing. Well, it's like a donation for Mohawk Con. Here's the thing is, I think there's a problem with DEF CON in some ways, because the people which started Mohawk Con, who would do mohawks to raise money for the EFF and Hackers for Charity, I think two things happen. One, the main people responsible are now gooning.
Oh, right.
They moved on to other responsibilities, and no one picked up it's interesting. I think we expect this torch to be handed to the next one. No, they stopped doing it, and no one picked it back on up.
Hey, this is actually a good point, and this is something I experienced in my Navy days of this constant turnover. And that's you get a feeling of nostalgia or loss in some sense where, this contest went away. Well, that's really sad because that contest was great, and I wanted to see it continue to succeed. But then that one going away opens up a spot for a new one to come in. And I got to tell you, walking around the con this time, man, I've been coming for 10 years. These contests are getting fascinating, right? 10 years ago, you would never see any of the physical challenges that we're seeing now, like the oil rigs and things like that. And a lot of that, it's not that you want to see other things go to make room for new stuff, but that constant churn actually encourages innovation in this space. And we're starting to see more of those newbie things, and I think that's what actually creates those gaps. And people say, I want to make DEF CON what I want DEF CON to be, which is kind of what DEF CON is.
And I think, unfortunately, there is a place to wrap up.
Yeah.
That being said, as I see one more from Jordan, which is, I love how DEF CON also has the vibes of a giant rave LARP with the music and furries. Yes.
Yeah.
It does have that feeling at times with the parties. That being said, I think so many people there's 2 videos you should go watch on my channel, which is the top tips from DEF CON veterans. There's 2 of them. And you notice such a trend there where it's go meet people, go meet your family, go love your hacker family. And they all carry that same vibe. I think that is a good place to end it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And as always, hack on.